Mortal Kombat. What made this franchise such a hit? Ah yes, it was this statue. It would always be in the background, giving this game the good luck it needed for critical and commercial success. Alright, it was the violence.
Raiden wins.
For anyone who watched my earlier videos, might remember me saying this.
This was one of the reasons why Sega were able to take the lead against Nintendo in the console wars by controlling 55% of the US video game industry at the time. The other reason being Mortal Kombat, but we'll talk about that in the future.
Well, now's the time. Mortal Kombat. A smash hit in the arcade and helped Sega win a huge battle in the console wars. It was a fighting game that used digitized models and plenty of blood. Back in 1992, this was one of the most violent and controversial games out there. Even today, it's still rated MA15, M for mature, 18, you get the idea. I mean, that speaks volumes of its violence. It all began when Ed Boon and John Tobias were given a job by Midway to develop a combat game to rival Street Fighter II, and the team consisted of just 4 people, a programmer, a sound guy, and 2 graphics designers. Their first idea was to make an action game based off the film Universal Soldier, and use digitized visuals of the actors, but earning the rights to a film was scrapped because actors like Jean-Claude Van Damme didn't have enough time in their busy schedule. But the development team kept the idea of a brutal, dark and violent take on the genre and continued on. During the development stage, nobody could come up with a name that everyone liked. Different names included Death Blow, Dragon Attack, Fatality, and Kumite. Then one day someone written Combat on the drawing board and another written a K over the C, just because. Pinball game designer Steve Ritchie saw it and asked Boon, why not call it Mortal Kombat? And it just stuck. A tournament is being held on an island in Earthrealm by Shang Tsung, and you have to defeat all fighters to take on Goro, who has been undefeated for over 500 years, and keep Earthrealm safe. But if Goro or Shang Tsung wins, they get it. It was extremely controversial at the time, and why wouldn't it be? You were punching fighters into a pit of spikes, kissing them to death, and ripping their spines out. This is ridiculously violent. So violent that US senators had a hearing to discuss the overgrowing violence in video games, and this, along with Night Trap, were ultimate talking points. They were worried that the violence would make children aggressive to the point that they want to rip the spines off human beings. Cut me a break. In the end, the government created the ESRB, a rating classification for video games which we look back now was for the best for both sides. When Mortal Kombat came to the Sega Mega Drive and Super Nintendo, they were very different ports. Do you notice any differences? The violence, blood, and fatalities are what made this fighting game what it is, but because Nintendo had a massive family-friendly image they felt was too precious to ruin, the blood and a lot of the fatalities were taken out of the Super NES version, basically taking out what made it popular in the first place. As for the Mega Drive, although you need a code to enable the blood, ABACABB, it was all there. When Coward Lincoln was at the hearing, he constantly badmouthed Sega as opposed to defending video games in general, claiming that if the Super Nintendo port had everything uncut, it would sell less. That turned out to be dead wrong because the Mega Drive version sold over 4 times the amount of copies compared to the Super Nintendo, and it made the company look really weak. They responded by bringing back the blood and fatalities in the sequel. This was one of the first video games to have Easter eggs. There are so many of them in Mortal Kombat, you'd think the Easter Bunny actually resides in the Netherrealm. Considering the number of myths and rumors this game has, that might legitimately be possible. Developers would have fun with these and even put them in their future games. Like, Ermac who? Oh, Ermac. I thought he didn't exist, along with a certain katana in red that turned out to be Scarlet feeling toasty in a rain of blood, beating her 50th opponent in a row to take on Noob Saibot on the pit stage. There you'll be able to witness the decapitated heads of the developers. Those are just a handful of the hundreds of Easter eggs in the Mortal Kombat series. Will you be the next adventurer to explore the secrets of the Netherrealm? I just wish the team could put that much attention to detail on the gameplay. Okay, in some ways they did. You get 7 fighters to choose from. Each one has their own subplot, which at the time nobody would have been interested in until the rebooted series changed all that. It was one of the first fighting games to use magic-like special moves and attacking opponents in mid-air. But there are no combos. Just a couple of unique special attacks for each fighter, and that's it. I don't even understand why the clock is set at 90 seconds if the health bars are small. It would be harder to beat the clock than your opponent. Someone should try that. You still get hurt from blocking, and when the health bars are very small, the margin for error is incredibly low. If you want to be good, you can't fuck up. The controls will take a really long time to get used to. They feel slow and limited. Because this game uses digitized graphics, the hit detection is very dodgy. Once the fight is over and someone wins, behold the opportunity to rub it in the opponent's face by performing a fatality. Now at the time, fatalities were what you call forbidden. The button combinations weren't officially released, and even if you do work it out, you have no seconds to pull it off. It's more frustrating than fun. I can't imagine what it's like trying to perform a fatality with a joystick. But once you do, wow. In your face? I remember when I pulled off my first Mortal Kombat fatality on the Mega Drive port of MK2 with Johnny Cage. When I had the button combination, it took me ages to finally punch the head off. I don't remember the opponent, but it felt really satisfying. But for all the wrong reasons, because I hate the controls. The easiest ones to pull off are close ones, like the spine rip from Sub-Zero. How ironic, considering that fatality caused the most controversy and leveraged the idea of a rating system. The delay controls don't help the fact that the difficulty is relentless. The AI balance is off and counters a lot of your attacks. I'm playing this on very easy just to stand a chance. I get it, it's an arcade game and you have to earn money by not making it too easy. But there's a line between challenging and unfair. But they could afford to make it unbalanced at the time because gamers back in 1992 were brainwashed by the bloody violence. At least unlike the arcade, you have so many continues and you have an option to change fighters if you lose. If you're looking for precision controls in an early fighting game, Street Fighter 2 is without question the better option regardless of what version you have. Even Killer Instinct with its pre-rendered graphics and Virtua Fighter looking like this, they're more fun to play. You think it's because Mortal Kombat is decades old and the controls are outdated, but Street Fighter 2 came out a year earlier and to this day it's still fun to play. All these Mortal Kombat games do is put me in a really shit mood.
Sub-Zero wins fatality.
Let's take a quick look at the sequels. Mortal Kombat 2 is more of the same thing. More stages, fighters, special attacks, blood and fatalities. Which also means more non-gamers likely to lose their shit. There's a lot more explanation in the story. Shang Tsung was defeated by Liu Kang in the Mortal Kombat tournament, and he begged Shao Kahn to give him a second chance. By holding a similar tournament in the Outworld where Shao Kahn resides, giving him a homeland advantage. Kahn agrees and the tournament is set for you to defend Earthrealm again. The graphics look a lot better and the stages have extra variety, setting more of them outside of temples. It looks darker and more colourful at the same time, and the high impact blood continues to splat. Even though this was the first Mortal Kombat to receive a rating by classifications all over the world immediately so it doesn't tick off senators, the violence in this one reached a level where it was censored in Japan, which was mind-blowing at the time considering it was usually the other way around, and banned in Germany altogether for over 10 years. There are more fatality options including making the best of the stages, and ones that make fun of the violence controversy by adding babalities and friendships. Friendships? But this one's even more difficult. Despite playing this on very easy, I barely win. It's mostly thanks to a glitch where if an opponent is close to you, even if you're attacking, you will be thrown away, taking nearly a quarter of your health. You have no idea how much it pisses me off. It doesn't help the fact that controls are just as awful. Sure, you get more special attacks to work with, but they're so delayed and the opponent has a bigger advantage. And don't get me started with the fatalities. I swear, even if I put in the right button combination, it still doesn't work. Pressing 4 to 6 button combinations in 1 second. It's unthinkable. This is definitely my least favorite of the first 3. In fact, I really hate Mortal Kombat 2. The only thing I really like about it is the fatality music on the Mega Drive port, which is very daunting. Not a high list of plus points.
Outstanding. Finish him. Johnny Cage wins. Fatality.
Mortal Kombat 3 once again is more of the same. What you're looking at is the ultimate version. First Shang Tsung, now Shao Kahn, but Kahn ain't having it. He initiates a 10,000 year plan to revive former Queen Sindel in Earthrealm to take control of every soul. But Raiden saves a few, and all go out to stop Shao Kahn and take Earthrealm back. Because it's set primarily on Earthrealm, most of the stages have a very dark and dystopian street feel. The violence in this one has been toned down. The blood is still there, but the decapitated body parts have been replaced with bones and explosions. I didn't think a human body could be made of that many big bones. Multiplayer plays a larger role. Now you can have 8 players. Well, it's only 2 players during gameplay, but 8 can go at each other in a knockout tournament just like the story. Out of the first 3 games in the Mortal Kombat series, this has the best gameplay as it doesn't feel as clunky as the others, and they even introduced combos. The fatalities are still a pain in the ass to pull off because the enemy falls more quickly than you can blink. I was able to pull off a few myself. Now you get animalities. A fighter can turn into an animal to finish their opponent off. Why does Scorpion turn into a penguin? You'd think he'd turn into a, well, scorpion? Animalities were added into Mortal Kombat 3 thanks to fan rumors. Just remember to be a friend and turn your opponent into a baby.
Finish him. Wins. Fatality.
If you want these games, there are plenty of different ports. What you're all looking at is the arcade collection on the PlayStation 3, also available on the Xbox 360. You can get the first 3 games on the Atari Jaguar, Sega Mega Drive, Sega Saturn, PlayStation, Super Nintendo, and Nintendo 64. Or if you really want to, buy the arcade machines. For this review, I played hours of Mortal Kombat, and I did notice that I was getting better and better. I was able to pull off a lot of the fatalities without briefly looking at the move list and even earn a couple of flawless victories. In the end, I give these a combined rating of 5 out of 10. I will not deny how important Mortal Kombat was for gaming. It played a massive role in the 16-bit console wars, the fighting genre, and it pushed the limits on what was acceptable in a video game, which influenced other developers and publishers to pave the way for video games targeting an older audience. I can understand why people love these games, but looking back on them now, they're incredibly outdated. The controls are way too clunky and delayed for my liking. I guess it's hard to create fluent movement for better control if it uses photographic models. I'm not saying stay away from this game at all costs. I'm glad these games came out. If you played Mortal Kombat a lot when it was new and enjoy it to this day, then good for you, that's perfectly fine. But I found it very hard to enjoy. I think it's just a case of putting presentation and shock value over gameplay. I'll stick to the newer titles, thank you very much.
Finish him. Excellent. Scorpion wins.